Good morning, church. I came all the way. My name is Margaret Coker. I came all the way from Port Harcourt to share my testimony. I'm an NSPPD. So, March 2020, I got married to my husband, and we got married in our mid-30s, and we really wanted to conceive quickly before, we get to our 40s and all. And 4 months into our marriage, I got pregnant. It was in July, and the next thing, I was rushed to the hospital. They said it was ectopic pregnancy. They took out the baby. We had an emergency surgery, so the doctor said I was pregnant for twins, and then they took it out. So this was in August. This happened in August, and then a friend introduced me to NSPPD, saying there's this new platform that, that I should join. So I joined since August 2020, and I've been on the altar. So after the surgery, I went back to the doctor to, after surgery, you go for checkup, you go for follow-up. And then the doctor told my husband and I that he doubts if we could conceive naturally, that we would have to do IVF. That because when he opened me up for the surgery, he noticed that I had ovarian cysts, blocked fallopian tube, and then multiple fibroids all over my womb. So he has to be through IVF. Immediately he said it. I just said I'm on the altar of fire. In fact, if NSPPD had started that match and I was on the altar, I'm sure I wouldn't have lost those twins I did. So I said, I'm on the altar of fire, nothing was going to happen. So I stayed, and I told my husband we should not do the IVF with that doctor, because he said even before we do the IVF, he would have to do multiple surgeries on me before he does that IVF. So we left, and then I said, let me go meet another doctor. My husband is, a believer of, if you're praying, you also have to walk towards it. You can't just sit and not do anything. And we are both in it, so I had to move with him. So while I was praying, we went to see another doctor, and he did a minor surgery on me, and that's my business. He did another minor surgery on me, and then he said, the doctor said, okay, with this minor surgery, we could go ahead with the IVF. So we did an IVF in 2021, and, it failed. Then he said, he's sorry. He thinks he should have done that major surgery the previous doctor had told me. And that's why this IVF didn't stay, that we should come back again. I should go prepare myself. After that process, after injecting yourself and all that, you have to wait for maybe 3 months or 6 months before you could do that process again. And it's like, go and wait. You come back later, and then, we'll do the surgery and that. So I was always on the altar praying, and Pastor Jerry was always saying, you will get pregnant, women in your 30s, women in your 40s, women in your 50s, and I would key to it. Even testimonies, oh my God. I keyed to so many testimonies, more than even the prophecies. And then we saw the second doctor. The third doctor this time around, he checked me out, and then he's like, sorry, we still have to do the surgery. And then my husband was like, let's just do it and, get away with it. We did the surgery, and then we had another IVF. At this time, the IVF failed again, and then we went back to the doctor to say, what's happening? The doctor said, he's sorry, my eggs are not viable again. If I'm going to do IVF next, he didn't say if. He said, okay, when next you're coming for the next IVF, we're going to have to buy eggs for you to use and everything. It was then I just said, no, this is the devil. I'm not coming again. And then I told the doctor, I'm really sorry, because he's an Edo man like me, and we're always really gist. So I told the doctor, I said, doctor, I'm very sorry. The next time I'm going to come to your hospital is for antenatal and not IVF. The doctor said, I didn't mean that. I said, yes, doctor, I know what I'm saying. The next time I come here is for antenatal and not IVF. And then I cried out of the hospital with my husband. My husband, why are you crying? I said, don't worry. And then I went back home and then continued on the altar of fire. Prophet, there was one of the days, I think in August, pastor said, women, pregnant women, lay your hands on your womb. You will not die with your pregnancy. I knelt down and laid my hand on my womb, and I was saying, amen. The next thing, pastor said, I can see you. You are not pregnant, but you put your hand on your womb. God is saying that you are pregnant already. And then I kid to it. And this was like in August. I didn't get pregnant until November, but I still didn't give up. I kept staying on the altar of fire. And, every month after that prophecy, I would check my test strip. After like 3 months, I stopped checking. I'm like, when God does it, in fact, I won't even know. Let me just rest, And then in the month of November, it was month of suddenly, November 2023, it was suddenly. And then the last day of November, November 30th, I think it was after the prayers, it was during an offering or communion. I can't remember when, but Pastor just kept saying, your November we end with evidence. So November we end. I even wrote everything down on it's too much. I can't read it. We won't leave here today if I read it. Your November we end with evidence. So your November we end with evidence. And I keyed to it. And immediately he said it. The Holy Spirit just said, Pastor just said your November we end with evidence. Go and carry your test strip and check. I'm like, I beg, I'm not checking. Okay, what will he do to you? Just checked. And I took my test strip. I went to check, and I was pregnant. Oh, my God. Without IVF. The IVF failed July 2023. I got pregnant November 2023. And, because the doctor was expecting me to come back for IVF, he reached out to me in December. And he said, madam, how are you? You just went MIA. We don't even see you. And I said, doctor, I said I was going to even reach out to you. I checked, I did a test, and I'm pregnant. Doctor said, that's impossible. I said, it's possible. I am pregnant. He said, it is impossible. You need to come to the hospital. Let's check you properly. I went to the hospital, and then he did a blood test. It was positive. They did a scan. They saw my baby bag and the heartbeat. But the doctor kept saying, I can't explain this because this is so much fibroid. He was showing me this is so much fibroid. This child, are you sure this child will survive? I said, what God cannot do does not. This child, though, will survive. So over and over, he would tell me, don't announce it. Just be calm. After your 12 weeks, we will know if this child will not, come out because of the fibroid and everything. I said, no. I was on the altar of fire, and Pastor Jerry used to say, what you are afraid of will not happen. Different prophecies that I keyed to. At the end of the day, we even had to travel. Before we could travel, every doctor that checked would say, madam, it's risky. Don't go on a flight. I'm saying, God, I did not pay for this baby. God put this child there. God is the one that is responsible to take care of this child. I have no power of my own to do this. So that was my prophecy all the time. I kept saying, Pastor Jerry has said it, it's not my work. It is God's work. So I left. I just said I was going to travel and have this child. I'm not going to have her yet. Even though the doctors were saying, don't try it. You will lose. I will not lose this child. I went to the US. We had her. It was a C-section. When they opened me up, my mom was in the room. She could testify of the scare on the doctor's face. They were looking at each other, and I could see my mom's face, the way she was, afraid at the way they were staring. And then the doctors were like, it was so difficult. CS is supposed to be like 15 minutes, but it took over 45 minutes. It was a struggle to bring her out of my womb. They brought out a very big fibroid that was the same size as my child. And they brought her out at 36 weeks. She was so healthy, no complications, very healthy. That's my testimony. Very healthy baby. I don't know what I did to deserve this gift from God. God showed me mercy. I waited for 4 years. It felt like 20 years. Because of all the stress we went through. We did more than 4 surgeries. The doctors had said no fallopian tube, ovarian cyst issues, multiple fibroid. I don't know how this child entered. I had no idea how this child entered. After the surgery, there was a white nurse. Because after the surgery, they took me to the recovery room. And it was like I was where you put somebody in a museum. Different nurses, different doctors were coming to check. They'll press on my belly. One white lady had to come to me and say, do you believe in God? I said, yes. She said, that explains it. That there's nothing. She's like, that explains it. That because they saw my womb, they saw it, that it wasn't possible for that womb to carry an healthy baby. I am here to say, what God cannot do does not exist. Pastor Jerry, God bless you. Pastor, okay? Pastor Goro, Mommy, no. God bless. What God cannot do.
You may not see the wind, you may not see the rain, but your valley shall be filled. Just the same way, despite all the negativities, all the complications, Elroy, the God who makes a way in the midst of the wilderness, he makes crooked paths straight. He delivered his own child at her own time. If you know that is the God we serve, let me ask you that question. How will you celebrate